Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Storytelling with Data. My name is Jonathan Thompson, and I'm your host for today. I work at Impactful Specialist Solutions. Any of you who've watched the series Chasing the Sun, all about the Springboks rugby, just like Rassie, please don't hold back. And now a little bit about our experts today, starting with Tim Keys. Tim has been an ambassador and a user adoption specialist for Microsoft 365 since its launch. He is our Microsoft portfolio manager, so he has a deep understanding of all Microsoft products. He is contracted by Microsoft to do sales and licensing training, both globally and in South Africa. And if you ask his clients, one of his greatest strengths is helping them use the products to their maximum potential, thereby gaining a great return on their investment. And if you don't believe me, he's got more than 8,000 LinkedIn followers. Over to Francois. He is a senior facilitator at LRMG and with more than 31 years of experience in the field. He has a vast experience and has a wealth of knowledge about everything to do with databases, from management, deployment, performance tuning, data analytics, and data science. Most of the stuff I don't understand. During his illustrious career, he has been awarded several industry awards, which serves as a testament to his passion for his craft. And finally, when I asked him about a fun fact that I was doing his introduction, he said he has most fun when he is working with data. So I think we're in very capable hands today. So I think with no further ado from me, I think it's over to you, Tim.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can all see and hear me okay. Really good to be with you today and talking about a topic that I'm just as passionate about as Marius. He's our propeller. It is the clever guy. I'm more of the sales business orientated person, but you need both elements when we look at this very, very powerful topic. So as you heard, my name is Tim Keys. I look after Microsoft products here. And what we've asked you to spend some time listening to us talk about today is looking at, there's such an overwhelm of data right now. We've got information in all sorts of places. We're asked to share information with people. We have to present in like 10 minutes to to the exec on the data. And, there are a lot of pressures on how to get this information across. And people struggle with, how do we share this data effectively? How do we tell the story? And part of the issue is we've got brilliant tools out there, Excel being one of them, that creates charts and graphs and whatever you need quite easily. The problem is sometimes when you go with the defaults, you're breaking a whole lot of rules. So what we want to show you today is, how do you take raw data, important information, and communicate it in a way that gets results. So it's all about the principles, and you will also get the more technical Power BI from Francois a bit later. So I'm going to talk about storytelling with data and how it works. I'm also going to show you some examples in Microsoft Excel. And then, as I said, I'll hand it over to my colleague. So here's the issue. Bad graphs are everywhere. I'm sure that you've experienced this, having to sit through PowerPoint after PowerPoint of poorly constructed data that, like these slides, are totally overwhelming, probably don't make sense, are not effective, do not get the right decisions. And so, as I said to you, it's become such an important part of our business, where we asked to motivate, or we asked to report on sales, or to report on projects. So the reason that bad graphs are everywhere is that the design principles aren't taught. So what we teach is the Excel skill or the Power BI skill. Click here, click there, choose this particular chart. What's just as important is understanding the design elements and understanding story elements. And that is what I'm going to show you today in the 20-25 minutes I've got available to me. So let me show you some examples of what we're trying to do. So the aim is to tell stories that turn data into information that can be used to drive better decision making. So that's your mission. How do we build this more effectively? So I want to give you, to start off with, I just want to give you a couple of examples. And then you can get an idea of some of the principles we're talking about. So this one I'm going to show you in a bit more detail later on in Excel. But what has happened is some support people have left the building. They've gone other companies, and the owner or the manager is trying to figure out whether he needs to bring in new headcount. So if you look at this ticket trend, can you, by looking at this slide, can you tell me whether this person genuinely needs a new headcount? And this is the problem. This is what we typically do. So this would be a report on the number, if you look at the ticket volume received, so the number of tickets versus the ticket volume processed. Now, the thinking's correct, but the slide is so busy, it's not set up in the right format. It's not even the right type of graph to use. So, yeah, thank you. So if you look at the ticket trend here, here's an example. It's the same data, just done in a different way. Now, look at how much more effective this one is. So all that's happened is, we've moved from a bar chart to a line graph, and we're comparing the two numbers, and we've reduced all of the clutter. So you can see immediately looking on the right-hand side that we've got the tickets processes, the tickets received, and where the two employees left, you can immediately see they started falling behind. So if I showed this to my management and I said, I need 2 new heads, you would immediately be able to see it through that slide. So the thing that I'm trying to show you here is it's not about the skill here of creating the graph or the chart here. What's happened is the story isn't being told. The design principles aren't being thought through. So if you look on how powerful that right-hand side chart is, that's what we talk about telling the story, because you can immediately see in May, this is where we had the problem and where the divergence happened, and I need help, please. And you look at the use of color. It's reinforced through color, it's reinforced through simplicity, and it's reinforced through storytelling. So a couple of principles there. Number one is don't overdo the design. And number two, knowing what design to use that tells the right story. So that's a very good start to an example. Now, if you attend our storytelling with data, you'll see I'm not a big fan of these kind of charts where it's, a whole lot of little components that are difficult to read. Now, again, same story. What happens in this case, we're trying to understand people's view on science. So we're trying to figure out how they feel about this topic. Now, there's no way looking at before and after that I can see the shift in behavior. The chart's just not doing it for me. The colors are messy. The problem with this kind of chart is that the numbers and the size of the little pies often get distorted. So again, let me show you an example of where storytelling suddenly changes it. And this is not a complex graph at all. All we've done is we've moved it into a bar chart and we flipped the data, which means that now I can see immediately, because I'm wanting to see pre and post. I need to see the board, in this case, before and after. So there was a slight jump. Not great. There was a slight jump. When you get to okay, before it was okay, but you can see later on that there's a huge shift to excited. So the nice thing again about this slide is I very clearly performed the function it's intended to do, where I can see that when we started, most people were, science is all right. By the time we were done, there was a significant jump in what people are enjoying. So again, great story, the choice of the right kind of slide, the visual elements are all there, the story's there, and the visual elements support the message. So that's the second example that I wanted to show you. The third one is a typical one that we have to resolve regularly. And again, I'm going to show you how this is done in Excel. But you have the average retail product price per year. So now traveling over the years, I'm trying to figure out how have these products changed over time, because I want to look at my pricing models. So, you know, did I, you know, am I looking at the right pricing? Am I getting the pricing right? So if you look at this case, I can't see it by looking at the products. Now, this is a very good example of a storytelling, because look, this is actually the equivalent of it. Now, this shows you the power of storytelling, because what actually happens in the story is these numbers are left in, but I have updated it in Excel. But if you look at these two stories, we started the first two products good couple of years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. There was a certain price point that we went in at. And you will notice over the time, those price points have actually dropped. So it meant that probably we've had we started out too high and we've had to adjust downwards. Then we introduced 3 new products about 4 or 5 years later, but the range was slightly less. So instead of going to $80 in this case, we went below the 150, and there we were able to increase the price, and the average increase is higher where we started at that reasonable price. So what this chart is saying, the story it's saying, is that we need to launch these new products at this range of $150 to $200, because then we have space for growth. So again, a very powerful component here. Quite frankly, that chart on the left-hand side is useless. The chart on the right-hand side is giving you just so much more valuable info. So I just wanted to give you a few examples, and then I'm going to show you in Excel some of the tips and tricks you can use to achieve this. But the secret to creating these incredible stories is the planning that you do. So what I want to take you through in the examples is there are 6 elements of designing a good data story. The first one is you've got to know who you're talking to. What do you want people to do with this information you're sharing? Number 2, you need to choose the best way to display the data visually. So the idea would be, you know, what kind of chart would work? How do I simplify, which is my view? My view is to get rid of as many of the clutter elements as I possibly can, so that the real message comes through. So you choose the best way to display it, then you remove the clutter. Then make sure that you use elements. And, you know, I promised I wouldn't go into the chat part, but the discussion around color is relevant here. Is you can use color, you can use shading, you can use bold, various elements to focus the attention where you want it to go. Then when you look at the design elements, there's visual focus, and there's also think like a designer. So how do I support the message by using a couple of additional elements, like just a couple of text boxes, for example? So I think like a designer. And then something that people get wrong, they try and say too much in one slide. And that last slide that I showed you with that journey, I'm going to show you how you can build it up through a series of charts rather than one big one, which is overwhelming, is to build up the story with a series of charts. Okay, so these are the 6 elements that I want to show you. Now, what I'm going to do, just give me a sec, is I'm going to switch to my Excel to show you those 6 elements. So you should still be able to see my screen. So here's an example, and I just want to show you the source data. So this is a competitive analysis. And what has happened in the competitive analysis, I've got a couple of areas, our business and how we compare to others. And what this creates is and this is just the top lines, creates the most horrendous chart, which is this one here, which is known as a scatter chart. And a lot of people use this. Now, if you look at this example, I cannot see which one's me. I'm struggling to see how we compare. There's no analysis here. So the first thing I'm saying is context matters. The aim of the chart, what am I trying to achieve, is going to determine how you're going to put the chart together. So I want to show you how this can be done in a far better way. So here, instead of using the data there, I've just converted it into positive numbers. And then look at the difference here by doing a really simple chart. And if you look at why I'm saying context matters, I don't need to see what these elements are and which particular competitor it is, because the aim of my chart is I want to see where I score relative to all my competitors and where I need to do some work. So if you look here very quickly, I know that it's around price and convenience. So the first element that I trying to show you is when you create a chart, that you have to spend some time storyboarding the idea, is saying, what is the aim here? Who is my audience? What do I want them to do when I'm done? And in this case, I want to identify where the work is we need to do. Now, again, let me show you the difference. No story, just an arbitrary chart that means nothing, doesn't get the right impact. Same information, same data. And what I've done is I've used gray so that it doesn't get complicated, overwhelming. And I have used the blue, which, talking to the colors, is a contrast you can use if people are colorblind as well. And I can quickly see the work I need to do. So that's the first piece of advice I'd like to give you. Always know what the aim is. Don't just create the chart. You've got to do the planning beforehand. Then the second one is choose the effective visual. Now, again, I wanted to show you some really clever ones. So this one, if you look at my data, I'm comparing a survey that I've done on employee feedback over a year from last year to this year. So if you look at my data, I'm looking at those areas, and I'm looking at the positive feedback that I got over time, and I'm wanting to compare them. Now, again, my first thing was, what's the aim? I want to identify where the big shifts are and where I need to do some work. So based on the feedback, I need to see where we might not be doing as well with our employees as we should. So if I look at how I create this chart, you've got these comparisons. Now, I could use a bar chart, which would give me these comparisons. But what I want to show is the relative change to the others. Now, if you've never seen a slope graph before, that is because it doesn't exist in Excel. A slope graph is an application of, it's a standard line chart, believe it or not. So please, I'm going to give you my details later. If you want to know how to create one of these, I'm happy to show it to you. It's a little complicated, but what you do is you create a line chart, standard. So you would select that data, you would create a line chart, you would switch the data. So in other words, it'll now show peers, culture, etc. on the left, and it'll show these relationships. And with a little bit of manipulation, so I grayed out the lines, and you can see all I did was I emphasized the red. And you can see this choice of chart is magic for this purpose, because now you can see without trying that the biggest issue where we've dropped dramatically is career development. We need to do some work here. Again, simple, no lines, no, why would I need a whole lot of, bits on the line, on the left and the bottom and things like that? It's not necessary. All I need to see is the comparison between the two. So again, you can see the power of knowing your audience and choosing the right visual. Now, I want to show you one other clever visual, which is how would you show these surveys? So we've done a course and people have, agree, disagree at certain elements. And I want to see, what is the kind of bits of information that I can learn from here. So you can see this is messy again, strongly disagree to strongly agree. I'm going to struggle with these numbers to view it. So again, look how clever it is knowing the right visual. Because what I've done here is this is a specific kind of sideways bar chart, which will always go to 100. So what happens in this case is I can see that survey item A, I've consolidated some of the colors, which has meant that I've got 0 to 40% of people in item A actually disagreed. The neutrals are in the green and the blue are the people who loved it. So without looking in any detail, I can see immediately how they felt about the items. And I can see they really loved item E, not so happy about item A. Again, all I did was I chose the right type of chart, which was allowing me to put those together and look at survey items separately. Now, there is a little bit of language that you need to be aware of here, or design elements. So, you know, there are times where you need to know to swap the data and how to use the colors, etc. So those are two examples of effective visuals. Now, let me move on to declutter because I don't want to take any of Francois' time. So I want to show you this example from the top. So this was the first part of the slide that was created. So you can see already messy. Those blocks are unnecessary, the background, too much noise here. It's the same one I showed you earlier, but it's not showing the message. So the first thing I did was I took out the outside frame. So immediately it's less messy. Then I removed the grid lines. So now I don't have to worry about the grid lines. If you are worried about the grid lines, you can just use lighter lines, not such dark ones. Then I removed the data markers. So that meant you don't have all of those squares. And then I cleaned up the axis labels where please don't use these 45 degrees. They're incredibly difficult to read. So I cleaned it up by making it go sideways and ticket volume received. And then I labeled the data directly, so I wouldn't have to have the data again at the bottom. So you can see immediately by just doing a couple of cleanup exercises, suddenly the story's there. So that's the third element, which is declutter. And you end up with, by matching the colors, by doing all of those things, you get a beautiful story. So context matters, use the right visuals, declutter your messaging. Then use focused attention. So again, I want to show you this. Sorry, I should start at the top. So here we're looking at people's design concerns. So this is a standard bar chart that you would use. But again, everything's the same color. It's difficult to understand the relationships. So all I've done here is I've leveraged color, where I've now said 7 of the top have these concerns. So now I want to highlight those top 7 concerns. And then I want to highlight the top concern in the bottom 3. And suddenly I've now managed to what we call chunk it. And all I've done is I've used, in this case, I've focused attention through color. So the leverage, the color, 100%, that would be one way to do it. And then this one, these are the noise related. So again, what I've done is I've shown that specific of these are related to noise, engine noise, wind noise. So again, it allows me, even if they're not in an order, the human brain's very clever to pattern through color. So by focusing attention, and as I said, there are various ways of doing it. I chose the easy part, which is color. So that's the declutter. And then the design element, just to quickly take you through that, is what I showed you earlier, where here it's not nicely designed. This one, I showed you the chart, but look at how clean it is. Look at the use of white space, the additional information that supports the core chart. So instead of just creating the chart, these are text boxes. So before the program, majority of children felt okay. After the program, they're much more excited. So by using, again, clever design elements, that would allow me thinking about white space, thinking about supporting information, bringing in additional elements, you can create a brilliant story. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how you can tell a story by not just going with one slide. So what you've got here is I want to show you how prices have changed and what we need to be doing about it. So this one says what I told you, that we introduced these two products in 2018. All right. Since 2018, that pricing has actually gone down. In 2024, the products A and B are now priced at 260 and 250 respectively. So we're actually charging less than we started on. Now, products C, D, and E, we brought in from 2020, and we went in at a lower rate, a lower dollar rate. All of those have increased over time. In fact, with the increase of time, we tend to see an initial price increase followed by a decrease over time. So it's showing the pattern. And as of 2024, what we're seeing is we're now averaging out. So my final message here is we believe that our price points are set for us and that this is where the average needs to be when we have a look at the pricing we're aiming for. Okay, so as always, we've only got an hour to share this with you, but I hope that gives you an idea of the elements. Context matters, effective visuals, declutter, focus attention, look at your design, and don't focus just on one shot, rather build out your story, because then it builds on each other and you can see just how powerful this is. Okay, again, please, if you have any questions, please type into the message. But thank you. I really appreciate all that feedback. Great. So I'm going to hand over now to Francois.
Sorry, Tim, just before you go to Francois.
Yes.
Someone might ask the question about Copilot.
Yes.
Because what Copilot is doing, is that not also an AI tool that will enable you to generate some of these insights? So what would you say to that question?
It's the way Copilot works is you can do exactly the same things here. You just got to know how to write a prompt. So it'll happen much more quickly. And you can ask Copilot to recommend the most effective one. So you can say, Copilot, I need to see my average sales over a period of time. And it'll generate a chart. And I say, would you recommend a better one? So Copilot will speed this up. It'll advise me. And I would get so much more done at a much faster rate.
And then just quickly before we go to Francois, what would be your advice to people who are looking at using Copilot that don't know where to start?
You've got to try it. I've had it the last few months. It is awesome. You cannot believe how much better it makes your life, how much more creative you are, how much more effective you are. For example, in Copilot, some of these charts I'm talking about, you click on a button, it does it automatically. So it gives you 6 different versions of the chart, and you say, oh, I really like that one, and you choose that one. Now that's Copilot. Imagine how much time that's saving you.
But the insights are really in how to prompt it.
That's it. You got to know how to ask the prompts, but you'll be surprised as it starts to get to know you, how much it then starts doing automatically, because it's learning about you the whole time.
Okay, fantastic. Sorry for stealing some time, Francois,
No,
but
perfect.
over to you.
No problem. Tim, thank you so much. Thank you, Jonathan. So we're going to talk about Power BI. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me just start my screen sharing. And sorry, let me looking sideways and I'll dual monitor here just to make sure that I can see what's happening inside of Teams. As always, if you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. So some of you might be familiar with the Power BI platform, the application, and the services that we have available. It is a phenomenal visualization tool. It is extremely powerful. And the training that we do focuses on quite a lot of different sections that we need to talk about when it comes to Power BI. It is quite involved. We need to talk about, how do we get the data? What effects do the different types of licenses that are available that you might have signed up for? What effects will those have on the way that you're going to share, publish, manipulate your reports and your data, etc. So I've got a whole bunch of things lined up here for everyone. And maybe the first and foremost thing that I do want to talk about Power BI is just the sheer volume of information that we can go and import into the Power BI project that we're busy working with. Let me show everyone here. So I'm in Power BI. As you can see, I've got a blank canvas page. Here on the right-hand side, I've got some data sources, and I'll talk about data wrangling in a short while as well. But have a look at this. If I go to the Get Data button and I choose the More option, just observe the variety of different data sources that we have available to us that we can go and import from. Oracle database, SQL Server analysis services, Access database, SQL Server database, and we carry on. SAP HANA databases. It's never ending. Chances are if there's some application or platform out there that's going to store data, Power BI would be able to go and import that. And this is where we see Microsoft doing a lot of updates to Power BI constantly. Where we have the ability to go and import data sources that are now brand new, that have become popular. Some of these Spark Post, I've never even heard of Spark Post. I've never worked with Spark Post. So we've got a variety of different sources that we can go and import data from. What's also great is that when I import the data, I don't really care where it came from. What I care about is what it looks like once I have it inside of Power BI. And we have the ability to go and create what's known as data models. So if I show you the data modeling view here, you'll see that I've got a relationship. Now, this is quite interesting. It's some data that I started messing around with that deals with our national election data. So I went to our election website, I downloaded the data, and believe me, this is not what it looked like initially. This is how I broke it apart, and I'll show you the impact of wrangling and modeling data, which is so important. It has an influence on the size of your design. It has an influence on the speed of your refreshes. It's got an influence on so many different things, and the way that we can go manipulate the data and then visualize the data. There was quite a lot of work that we had to be done, that had to be done on that side. So let me show you just quickly. I've got some Windows folders open here. What the original data looked like. Oh my goodness, what the original data looked like. And just the sheer volume of information that was available. See, on the right-hand side in this window area here, you can see that I've got the different years worth of national result data that was shared on the website as CSV data. If I select all of those, let's go there. Notice the size. It's 625 megabytes of CSV data across 5 files. Those are millions upon millions of rows of data, and it really is huge. And when I started importing this data into Power BI and trying to manipulate or model the data or change the data, wrangle the data, Power BI just got slower and slower and slower purely because of the vast array of data that I had. I then got to a point where I manipulated the data in such a way that I broke it apart. And rather than sitting with 625 megs of data, I now sit with 93 megs of data. So I made the data a lot easier to access. My report is going to be quicker, publishing is going to be faster, refreshing is going to be faster. So that is a big part of what we're going to teach you inside the Power BI courses when you come to the courses. Just a quick note on the courses. Here at Impactful, we've got 2 different approaches to Power BI. We've got an internal developed Power BI level 1 and level 2 course, which is available for most end users. People that want to design reports and don't want to go too deep into becoming Power BI power users. And then we also have an official PL 300 workshop that is aligned to certification as well. So we do cater for all the people that want to come and do Power BI, whether you're going to be a power user or just a user that will design reports and make use of it. So the data importing and wrangling and modeling and all of those things are very important to getting your data prepared so that you have the ability to go and create your proper visuals. Right, so I'm just going to close this file for now. I've got some other, I'm not going to save any changes there. I've got some other examples that I want to show you of just what is available, what you can go and do with Power BI. So folks, I didn't design this one. This is an example that you can use yourself. It was made available by by Microsoft. And the idea is that I want to go and create different report pages with information about whatever topic I want to go and discuss. Now, as you can see here, like Tim said, keep it simple. Make sure that the message that you're trying to convey is easy to understand. So here on the right-hand side, you can see my different data sources that we have. We call them queries. We have the ability to go and build new columns and build new measures, aka calculations, and use them in our designs. And the really cool thing about Power BI, when I look at a report such as this, I'll demonstrate the online version of that shortly, is the fact that by default, everything is interactive. Just notice what happened when I clicked on the online portion of this donut chart. Yeah, we can see how all the cards at the top have changed. You can see social media sales, stores, and outlets went blank because there's no online or data for that. It's only online sales. And we can see the online sales and the total sales that interact. You're right. So someone had a question, Nicholas, what's the purpose of DAX in Power BI? So DAX stands for Data Access Expressions. DAX allows you to manipulate your data. Let me show you. If I go to, where's my Power Query? Do I have my Power Query? Actually, no, I closed it down now. So let me just, let me show you guys. Quick one about DAX. Let's just go and open up that previous report that I had. I'll take it through to Power Query. Guys, Power Query is an application that's available to Microsoft Excel as well. It allows you to manipulate large sets of data so that we have the ability to go and do pivot tables on them, report on them. So it is a tool that's available to both Power BI as well as Microsoft Excel. And the beauty of this one is here. Let me just go to the transform your data. Now it's going to open up Power Query. And here we see an example of the DAX language. Yeah, here's an example of DAX language. So data access expressions. So the purpose of the language is so that you have the ability to record whatever changes you make to your data. Remember, the data source will stay as is. You know, the original CSV file is the original CSV file. But I import the data and I'll start to manipulate and manage it and pull it apart and wrangle it and change data types. Every step that I apply records a DAX expression. And it's, you can think of it basically as a recipe. So when I update my underlying data source and I come back into Power BI or Power Query, I can go and refresh my data. When I refresh my data, it rereads the source data and it reapplies the recipe that I've done on there. So you can see all of these queries that I have got, you know, some DAX statements in there. Now, this is the data that I had from my original imports that I exported again, so that I don't have, you know, dozens upon dozens of steps
Francois?
in here. Yes, sir.
Can I apologize? There are a lot of end user people here are going to get lost with this technical conversation. Please, would you mind making your email available that you can have a more technical conversation? People like Nicholas who knows more. Sorry, we've only got
100%. Sorry, I get so like you said, I'm a propeller head, and I get so excited about the technology. Yeah. All right.
Thanks.
Okay, guys. So we design our visuals. Yeah. We design our visuals, and then we have the ability to go and publish these visuals and make them available. And we also have control over who can consume the content. Yeah, who can access the reports. I even have the ability to publish my data as well as my reports, and then allow anyone within my organization to use the data that I've created to build their own visuals, which is brilliant. So we can sit with a centralized area of where all the data lives. We don't need 59 copies of it between the different users, and we can all share the same data and create different visuals that relate to our area of business, our roles and responsibilities within the organization itself, which is beautiful. So let me demonstrate the online versions hereof. So I've got the Power BI service. Folks, keep in mind that you've got the Power BI desktop app that allows you to go and do the designs, and then you publish it to the Power BI service. So you would log in with your Microsoft account, your domain account, and here we can see our two reports. There's the previous one that I showed you in Power BI itself, the desktop application. And still here, I have draw-through functionality, or filtering functionality. We can see it's slightly slower than what we saw with the desktop app, obviously, because we are working with a browser version thereof. And all of these things are interactive. Look at that. If I click on a particular product name, it's within the online category, and you can see over every month here at the bottom left-hand side how that has contributed to that month's revenue, which is brilliant. I also have other reports. There I'm going to go to the top 10 region reports. And again, I want to focus on something specific, very key information that Tim pointed out. Yes, I've got these cards that shows the sales, total sales, and sales per different division or area of interest that I have. I've also got a nice little map area over here where we go and divide up the different sections or the 4 different areas of interest per location. But look at this tree map chart over here. First and foremost, it's nice to see that we can break down the online sales, and if I hover over them, I'll get different explanations, same as what I get there. The problem is the number formatting that we have. As we can see there, I'm showing 0K, 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 because those individual values are less than 1,000. But I would personally not have chosen to apply this number format to this tree map. What's also cool with Power BI is that when I right-click on any type of graphic, I have the ability to go and create what's known as draw-through reports. So look at this one. I'm going to right-click there on that online section, draw through, and I've got a detailed info. And here it breaks down my manufacturer, the products that I had, the sales, the units sold, and the return on investment. So it's got all of this collapsible, interactive. It's like using outlines inside of Microsoft Excel. And I have the ability to go and look at detailed information from that previous report. Right, if I just go back here, we'll notice that we return back to our original page, which is brilliant. Now, that detail report did not show. Here I have a return on investment. And here's something else that you guys need to know about Power BI. You do have the ability to go and implement designs in your desktop application. But as soon as you publish it, now I did this one on purpose. Notice here I've got a Azure map visuals are not enabled for your organization. So for those of you that are going to make use of Power BI, before you make use of a specific visual in your designs, just consult with your IT team, your tenant administrators, to see whether those visuals or features or settings are going to be available to you. But with this Azure map not being available now, just have a look. If I go to social media, we can see a little gauge here. I can see my column chart with the line chart combined. Here we can see the return on investment that I have per specific product. And I can see that that product gave me a 600% return on investment, which is brilliant. But I can also scroll down and you'll notice there are even negative numbers in there, which is brilliant. And there I go to store sales, I go to outlet sales. And as I mentioned, the key here is that I want to be able to share this with people within my organization. Tim also mentioned something else about the audience that you're going to present to. So always keep your audience in mind when you go and design these things. People that have a financial background will be interested in more detailed levels, argument's sake, on sales figures compared to what divisional managers would be. So management versus finance versus HR, different divisions, different levels of people within an organization. Are we showing high level details? Are we showing drill down details? But the cool thing is that all of that can be facilitated through your report designs that you have. Let's look at another example of what you can do with it. Here I'm going to go to this revenue opportunities one, and I really like this design. First off, it's straightforward. I've got a nice gray background, and the data that we're looking at is clearly defined. So we're looking at revenue opportunities. What's my count and what is my opportunity in revenue as far as US dollars are concerned? We can also then here see our sales stages, lead, qualifier, solution, proposal, finalize, what the count for those will be. I can also see my leads by region. And even better, notice here, as soon as I hover over the map, I have the ability to include these things called tooltips. So this was designed in Power BI, by the way. This is not an automatic feature. But notice how when I hover over these ones, it automatically breaks down my revenue by segment. Small and medium versus strategic versus large. Yeah, we also have full-on interaction. Look at this. If I go and click on large or east, it only shows me my east regions. Notice the use of color there. It's from 0.4 billion all the way to 0.84 billion. Fantastic design this. Then we go to central and we can see the map modifies, but not only the map, folks. Notice how my pipeline chart has changed. Notice how my count and my total revenue values have changed in the cards. Notice how the column chart with the line or combination chart has been modified as well. And that's the really cool thing about Power BI. It gives you this fully interactive mechanism of working with your data. Now, focusing on something that's quite specific to you. Now, even better, we have functionalities in Power BI such as this. Look at Central. If I right-click on it, I have a drill down command. If I drill down, it will show me Central and the different states that we have. What their contribution was to the overall. And you can see how only Central is available now inside my map chart, and we're only looking at Central data here, with the opportunities by count. Fantastic stuff. I can right-click on this thing again, and I can choose Drill Up, which means we're now looking at regional data again. So even if I had state data and I wanted to, and I included that in my data model design, I could have drilled down maybe per county. I know that America's got counties. In South Africa, we could have drilled down per city, or per metro, or whatever the case might have been. But there's more again. Notice I've also got draw through commands. So the draw through command here will show me the detail of the thing that I've right-clicked on. Again, that's a design principle that we do, that we implement at design time, in Power BI desktop app. So if I go and look at the detail, look what happens. It shows me the detailed values for large, medium, and small, for that region that I right-clicked on. However, I'm sure you guys will agree that these font sizes that we use here at the bottom might not be applicable. Also, this detail page shows the word central here in the region column. I might have opted to go and have that dynamically included in the report title at the top. So it's all about ease of use, clearly to, it should be clear to understand, it should be easy to navigate and move around. But there's so much more to Power BI, folks. Look at this.
Francois, I'm sorry, we're going to have to stop you there. We're going to run out of time.
Am I out of time?
I'm sorry.
Okay,
Guys,
one last
can I
thing I
just
want to show
guarantee
people,
something?
please. One last thing I want to show people, please.
Yeah,
I can export and share this data in PowerPoint, folks. So look at this. I've did this before. I've already got one. I exported this report into PowerPoint, and it is fully interactive.
Yeah.
There I'm sitting with live data, with all the functionality that we have available to us. It is now imagine doing presentations like that. It's just super. Anyhow, thank you for your time. I hope that you guys are getting excited about Power BI. It's a fantastic platform. It's an extremely powerful platform, and we would love to see you use this application and just make your storytelling even better and even more powerful. Thank you for your time.
Cool. Sorry, just what I'd like to do, because there are a lot of technical questions here. I'm going to offer Francois time as Ask Me Anything. Yeah. So for the people who want all these technical answers, he'll make an hour available where you can send all these questions and you guys can go and talk techie. So I do apologize if I shortened that a little bit. It is exciting, but I just want to quickly answer the last two questions you had. The course is available. Please, if you are an end user, you can do so much with Power BI Desktop. So although it looked fairly complicated, you can create those reports Francois showed you. And the way they trained it over the 2 days, we have a Microsoft Power BI level 1 and 2, where as an end user, you can learn it. And then we also have storytelling with data. The stuff that I looked at, all those design principles, it's the 2-day course that covers all of that. So just so you know, and then for the people who want, you will get certificates for all of that. We also have the 3-day data analyst qualification. That's for technical people who want to become certified data analysts. Okay, and if you fill out the feedback form that is going to go into the chat now, you get a voucher for 10% on any of the courses you choose to go on, one of the courses. So if you fill out the form for us, you'll do that. And then one last thing for people who really want to learn this, there's actually a boot camp that we run that runs over 10 weeks that will take you from knowing nothing all the way through to understanding Power BI and the storytelling, but not from a technical perspective. It's using it as an end user, and the same thing applies there. Great. Thank you very much. Over to you, Jonathan. Sorry, we were better than last time. It's still a bit over time.
Well, thanks to Tim and to Francois, and I think you can hear from the passion in their voices how excited they get about this topic. But I think what for me is amazingly compelling, and I think Francois, that last slide around the Power BI and importing it into PowerPoint, and that the effective use and the structure of doing a report like that, if you're doing monthly reports, once you've set it up on a monthly basis, it's a very easy way for you to be able to interpret it. But as Tim said, there is some crafting that you need to know your audience, you need to know what the design principles are, because at the end you are trying to convey a story, and the data insights that's going to give you is really going to make you make better business decisions. And that's why, in terms of the effective storytelling with data is actually so important. So if we've got any non-technical questions, we've got 5 minutes left before your time, or otherwise, if you would like to use the time just to use the QR code in your screen to do the feedback. I hope you've all found it very informative. And as I said, we will be running another one on PowerPoint in our monthly series. For any of you who have suffered death by PowerPoint, I'd suggest you attend that session so you know what not to do. But if there's nothing else, I think we can wrap up the session and use the time to complete the QR code. So thanks again, everyone. Wishing you a wonderful Friday and a weekend. And we really appreciate the fact that you've chosen to spend this hour with us. Thanks very much.
Sorry, Tim, I got carried away there. I get so excited about this application, and there was still a couple of additional things that I wanted to show, but yeah.
No, you did a great job.
There's just too much to talk about, isn't there? It's just so